What if I told you that the way you've been taught to pray is actually keeping your breakthrough from coming? Not because God isn't listening, not because you aren't faithful enough, but because somewhere along the way, you were handed a method instead of a relationship, a script instead of a conversation. And today we need to talk about it because too many people are exhausted, frustrated, and quietly wondering why heaven feels silent. And nobody's being honest about why. Stay with me. This might change everything. Welcome back. If you're new here, I'm glad you found this video. We talk about real faith for real life. No fluff, no performance, just truth. Today's topic is one I've wanted to cover for a long time. The wrong prayer patterns that are silently blocking people's breakthroughs. And the shift from religious prayer to relational prayer that changes everything. Let's get into it. Section 1. The crisis. No one talks about. Here's something most people won't admit out loud. They pray. They pray consistently. They do the morning devotions. They quote the scriptures. They end every prayer with the right words. And yet, something feels hollow. Like they're sending emails into a void and the reader receipt never comes. Sound familiar? Here's what I believe is happening. Many of us learned about prayer before we ever actually learned prayer. We were taught the posture, hands folded, eyes closed, certain phrases, but never taught the purpose. And purpose changes everything. Prayer was never designed to be a ritual you perform. It was designed to be the most intimate conversation of your life. The moment you treat it like a checklist, it stops being communion and starts being obligation. And obligation-driven prayer? It rarely moves heaven. So let's talk about the specific patterns that are quietly working against you. Section 2, wrong prayer. Pattern number 1, the vending machine approach. The first wrong pattern is what I call the vending machine prayer. This is where prayer becomes transactional. You insert the right coins, the right words, the right amount of time, the right tone, and you expect the blessing to drop down. God, if I pray for 30 minutes every morning, you owe me the promotion. God, I fasted 3 days. Now where's my healing? This sounds extreme, but if we're honest, many of us operate this way without even realizing it. The problem is that God is not a machine. He is a father. And no healthy parent relationship is transactional. You don't earn your father's help by performing perfectly. You receive it because of relationship. When your prayers are purely transactional, you're not actually talking to God. You're bargaining with a concept. And concepts don't respond. Fathers do. The fix? Shift your expectation. Stop approaching prayer with a list of terms and start approaching it with a posture of trust. The breakthrough you're looking for isn't locked behind the right formula. It's waiting on the other side of genuine connection. Section 3. Wrong prayer. Pattern number 2. Repetition without intention. The second pattern is mindless repetition. Now, I'm not saying repeated prayer is wrong. There's power in persistence, but there is a massive difference between persistent, intentional prayer and reciting words your mouth has memorized while your mind is somewhere else entirely. If you've ever caught yourself mid-prayer thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner, raise your hand. No judgment. We've all been there. But here's the thing. Jesus specifically warned about this. He said don't use vain repetitions, thinking you'll be heard for your many words. The word vain there means empty, hollow, without life. When prayer becomes a habit of sound rather than a practice of heart, it loses its power. You can say all the right words and mean absolutely none of them. And God, who looks at the heart, knows the difference. The fix? Slow down. Even if your prayer is shorter, make it real. 5 minutes of raw, honest, present conversation with God. will do more than 45 minutes of autopilot recitation. Section 4. Wrong prayer pattern. Number 3. Performative prayer. The third pattern might be the most dangerous, because it often looks the most spiritual from the outside. Performative prayer. Praying for an audience rather than praying to God. This shows up in public prayer, where every sentence is eloquent and polished, but privately there's barely a whisper. It shows up when we raise our hands or speak loudly, not because we're moved, but because we want to appear moved. And this one goes deep, because sometimes we're not performing for other people, we're performing for God. We think if we sound holy enough, if we use enough scripture, if we cry enough, surely he'll be impressed. But God is not impressed by our performance. He is moved by our honesty. The most powerful prayers in scripture were often the messiest. God, I don't even know what to say. Where are you? Help. One word. Completely unpolished, completely real, and completely heard. The fix? Give God the unedited version of you. He already knows it anyway. The performance is only exhausting you. Section 5. Religious prayer versus relational prayer. Now let's go deeper, because underneath all three of these patterns is a root issue. And that root issue is the difference between religious prayer and relational prayer. Religious prayer is about compliance. It asks, did I pray today? Did I say the right things? Did I check the box? Relational prayer is about connection. It asks, did I actually meet with God today? Was I present? Was I honest? Religion turns prayer into a duty. Relationship turns it into a lifeline. Think about the people you love most in your life, your closest friend, your parent, your partner. Imagine if every conversation you had with them was scripted, formal, careful, managed. It wouldn't feel like love. It would feel like a business meeting. God designed prayer to be nothing like a business meeting. He designed it to be the place where you bring your fear, your confusion, your gratitude, your anger, your hope, all of it, and lay it down in front of someone who already loves you completely. Relational prayer is messy. It rambles sometimes, it goes quiet sometimes. It cries and it laughs, and it sits in silence and just is. And that's not a sign of weak faith. That's a sign of real faith. Here's the shift I want you to make. Stop trying to pray right. Start trying to pray real. Because a real prayer that's imperfect moves God more than a perfect prayer that's hollow. Section 6. What changes when you pray relationally? When you make this shift, things begin to change. And not always in the ways you expect. First, prayer stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like a refuge. You actually want to come back because it's the one place where you don't have to manage yourself. Second, you start hearing more. When prayer is a monologue performance, you never leave space for God to speak. But when it becomes a conversation, you slow down enough to listen. And that's where breakthrough lives. Not just in what you ask, but in what you receive. Third, your faith becomes unshakable because it's no longer built on whether you performed correctly. It's built on who God is. And that foundation doesn't crack under pressure. So here's what I want to leave you with today. Your breakthrough isn't being blocked by your lack of faith. It might be blocked by the kind of faith you've been expressing. One that's been filtered through religion instead of relationship. Drop the script. Stop performing. Stop bargaining. Bring yourself, the real, unpolished, uncertain, hoping version of yourself, and just talk to him. That's where everything changes. If this hit you today, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it now, because we go this deep every single week. I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself.